right, good morning again, boys and girls, and welcome back to the final lesson of this chapter. Now, tomorrow, obviously, we're going to be reviewing for the test that's going to be coming up next. But for today, we're going to be looking at a comparison between the French and Spanish exploration and some of the different ways that they approached the idea of coming to America. But first, as always, I just want to remind you guys that you should be doing this worksheet first, and especially the 4 questions you see right here, because they will be addressed when we get to the video momentarily. And make sure you read carefully and answer questions 5 and 6 as well before going to the video. Okay, so that brings us to this map right here that you have the first 4 questions based on from your worksheet. So really quickly, let's just go through those. First question, who were 2 French explorers? Who were the 2 French explorers on this map? Question number 2, according to the map, when did the French start exploring America? What year? Question number 3, where did the French explore? And question number 4, who was one explorer that reached the Pacific Ocean? Who was one explorer that reached the Pacific Ocean? So now, just to go through a brief timeline of the reasons why we get to America, this will also act as a good review for the test coming up. But it all starts off, in this chapter at least, with Marco Polo. And Marco Polo was the guy who decided to go to China to get trade goods from China and bring them back to Italy so he could make some money. Remember, his father does this before him, but what the difference is, Marco Polo, when he comes back, he gets robbed before he gets here, but he does write this book that makes people want to go to China and want to go to trade with Far East and Asia. So from there, we end up with the situation where once inventions happen, like the caravel, the compass, and so forth, the next thing to occur is people start to be able to explore the open waters. We talked about how Bartolomeo Diaz and Vasco da Gama sail south around Africa, but we focused mainly on the exploration that happens in the Americas, so we go to Columbus next. So Columbus has this theory that the Earth is much smaller than we think it is, and that if he sails west from Europe, he'll be able to get to Asia in a matter of weeks. But as we know, that Columbus was wrong. And the person that proves that is a man by the name of Amerigo Vespucci. He sails west, and he realizes that he's not in Asia, which is why we have North and South America named after him. And so when he gets there, he knows that Asia is actually much further away. But we don't know necessarily what North and South America look like as of yet, because we still have to map out the entire region and explore the entire region. So the way we do that is quite simple. It's kind of like walking through a maze or walking into a dark room that you don't know where the furniture is. You kind of have to walk over, or in this case, sail over, check it out, and then if you can't find what you're looking for, you sail back to Spain or Europe, and then try again. So what you end up here doing for the first part, we had Amerigo Vespucci checks out the islands of the Caribbean, not Asia. Then they send over Hernan Cortez. He gets to Mexico, obviously not Asia. Then we send over Pizarro, De Soto, Ponce de Leon, and several other explorers, and they get to South America, not to Asia. Then we send over Magellan, and England starts sending over explorers, and France starts sending over explorers, and much more of the land becomes known, but once again, not to Asia. And nor do we find this water route that we've been looking for. So this is a rough idea of what they were originally looking for, which is going to be the Northwest Passage. They were trying to find a way to get to Asia. Unfortunately for them, there's this huge continental mass of North America and South America that's in the way. Now, once they realize how much land is here and the resources that are in this land, then it moves on to the conquering aspects of this land, which brings us to the Spanish reasons for conquering this land. Now, as you can see, the quote here is, "We came here to serve God and the king and also to get rich." Now, this is known to historians as the 3 Gs, which is the reasons why the conquistadors and the Spanish came to America. The first one is rather obvious. It is to serve God, big G. Now, what they mean by that is that they're going to come over here, and obviously Native Americans had no experience with Christianity before the Spanish got here. And so the Spanish took it upon themselves to kind of educate them on Christianity. And as you can see on the map here, one of the effects that this has is there's a lot of cities that you know of today that were named after these Spanish towns that popped up trying to teach Native Americans about Christianity. You have San Francisco up here. You have San Antonio, which is down here. Santa Fe in the middle there. So you have many different towns that are named after different saints in Spanish language that were going to be places where Native Americans would go in order to be educated about Christianity. Now, oftentimes, just to be clear about this is the building that they would have to go to. This is what's called a mission. Now, a mission is not like a goal in a video game. In this case, it's something that they use to educate the natives about the Catholic religion. This is not a voluntary education, just to be clear about that. Oftentimes, what would happen is that Native Americans were forced to work on farms and then provide the Spanish soldiers and Spanish people with food. Now, that means that they're losing food. So if the Native Americans got hungry and they wanted to eat, what they could do is they could go to these missions where there was free food for them to have. The only difference is for the Native Americans is that in order to get the free food, you also had to attend classes about Bible study and how to be a proper Christian, and also oftentimes convert to Christianity by being baptized. So they could get food if they agreed to follow the rules that they were being provided for by the Spanish. So the first G, once again, is God, and they try to convert the natives to Christianity. Now, I know in the quote the second G has to deal with the king, but we're going to skip forward to the next one because it is simpler. The second G, dealing with getting rich, is going to be dealing with gold. Now, in previous lessons, we saw these pictures and we saw this in the movies that the Aztecs and the Incas had a lot of gold that they had access to. And so once the Spanish conquistadors see this, they're going to want to try to get their hands on it because, as we said, the Spanish conquistadors get to keep much of the money that they find from these Native Americans. So the G there is going to be gold. And the final G has to deal with serving the king. And that comes from the idea that we talked about with Christopher Columbus, where when he first lands in Hispaniola, he steps off the boat, gets on land, and plants the Spanish flag, and says that he claims the land in the name of Spain and God. Now, when he does this, and he goes back to Spain and shows the Spanish king and queen all the things that he's accomplished for them in their name, they're going to be very happy with him, and they're going to present him with more titles and more lands. So, for example, for Christopher Columbus, he was Captain Christopher Columbus when he takes sail the first time. When he comes back, they make him Admiral Christopher Columbus, and they make him Governor of Hispaniola. Similar things happened to Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro. When they conquer the Aztecs and conquer the Incas, they're put in charge of the same lands that the empires are on. So the third G here is going to be glory, because you get the glory of your name and the glory of your country being expanded. And so those are what's called the 3 Gs. So now we know a lot about how the Spanish were treating the Native Americans, but we're going to get to how the English treated them in the next chapter. But we're going to go further north and we're going to talk about how the French treated the Native Americans in this lesson. And that's going to be the focus. So now, as you can see by this map over here, we get an idea of where the French exploration was. France explored this northern region up near Canada. And as you can see, they did go into North America. They were also looking for the Northwest Passage as well. They obviously did not find one. Now, one of the first and probably most famous explorers from the English, just to start off there, that you might know about is a man by the name of Henry Hudson. Now, the reason you probably know Henry Hudson is because if you've ever looked at a map, you've probably seen Hudson Bay, and you've definitely seen Hudson River, because we live right near it. As you may or may not know, the Hudson River flows to the west of New York City, and then it continues to flow up in upstate New York. And as you can see by the picture on the left here, you can see it flowing to the west, and this is a picture or a video of the Hudson River as it flows to the Hudson Valley of northern New York. Getting back to the French and Cartier, as you can see here, this is the exploration that the French explorer Cartier did in first and second voyage in 1534 and 1535, mainly exploring the northeastern part of what is today Canada. Now, one of the big differences that between the Spanish and the French is when they first encountered the Native Americans, the Spanish saw it as an opportunity to get rich, and so did the French, but the way they treated them was very different. When the French come in and they explore this northern region of Canada, they take it as an opportunity to, rather than try to conquer these people, they think that they can profit off of them by making it mutual. meaning that both sides can get something out of this. As you can see here in the picture on the right, you have French explorers coming in to Native American shops and homes, and the French know what they want from the region. The valuable item that they want from the region is going to be animal fur. There's beaver skins and fox skins that will be very valuable when they're sold back in France and Europe as hats and gloves. And in exchange, the Native Americans, as you can see there, are going to get European technology. For example, the Native American here is holding one of the French rifles. So they'll be trading back and forth between them, where Europeans will get the very expensive furs from the Native Americans, who are expert trappers, and the Native Americans will get technology and more resources from the French. But this begs the question, could the French have come in and simply conquered the Native Americans, much like the Spanish did to the Aztecs and the Incas? And the answer to that has to be yes. They had the superior technology, they had superior manpower, they could have used similar strategies, but they chose not to. Instead, they established much smaller colonies. The population of New France is never going to exceed really more than 15 to 20,000 Europeans, while the English colonies is going to reach approximately 250,000, and the Spanish colonies in Mexico and South America, there'll be 2 million plus people living in those colonies by the year 1750. So it's a much smaller presence from the French, and the French are going to get along much better with the Native Americans because they're going to cooperate and work together. And this is going to develop into a much friendlier relationship because, like I said, both sides benefit from this trade. Now this brings us to the summary comparison between the Spanish and the French. So if we wanted to know, for example, where the Spanish colonized, we would say South America and Central America. If we wanted to know where the French colonized, we would say North America and Canada. Now, the Spanish interaction with the Native Americans would best be described by saying that they conquered and enslaved the Native Americans. And the French interaction with the Native Americans would be more likely to say that they traded with the Native Americans for furs versus technology. Now that brings us to an end of this chapter for European exploration of North and South America. So make sure you're looking over your notes for the test that's coming up and the review that's going to be coming tomorrow. In the next chapter, we'll be talking about the English and how they colonized what will become the United States, but will be 13 colonies for them. But for right now, I hope you all enjoyed this chapter. Siler out.